I want to just show you some documents that I'll share with you by email that you might find useful. So in terms of blogging, this is something from Dr. Arthur Ellis's course, and this is how he has students blog in his course. He says each week you'll be expected to post a reflection on your learning in the course. And he's asking them to either make I learned statements, key idea identification, search for meaning, or clear and unclear windows statements. Those are the choices. And I can give you definitions of all of those. And he explains those. He's written a book on this, so that'd be a good book to have if you don't already have it on teaching, learning, and assessing together. But what he talks about then are that if you're going to write a good post, the post has insight, it has essence, it makes connections, it asks questions, and it contains some kind of documentation. So they're providing their resources as part of that. So I'll share this with you that you can use, and he's given me permission to, let other people use this, and this is really a good way for you to build yours. I'm also then sharing my method, which these were, again, from this idea of having weekly B-portfolio reflections. So it doesn't really matter if these are in WordPress or in the blog within Blackboard, but I tell them, after the week's completed, they're to write a reflection for that week. And I explain where they can find out more about the reflection tool. And we're actually, this is an older version of it. We're not actually using this site anymore. But I asked them then in a final reflection for the course to write out like a meta reflection over all they've learned. And then here are the things that I'm interested in. I'm interested in that they post on time. So if I say it's due every Friday, I want to see it on Friday. I don't want them to post early because I want them to make sure they've seen everything everybody else has done. I don't want them to post late. You'll sometimes get a student who wants to give you all 10 at the end of the term. That doesn't help us at all. I don't see growth then. So I want them to, anything that they post where they're referring to an article that we've read, to use an APA citation, include that with it. Spelling and grammar are important. I want them to relate it to their instruction. How does what they're discussing impact their teaching? I want them to demonstrate that they understand it. Explain why you know what you know about this topic. They've organized their thoughts. They've included an artifact. I want them to include a picture, a video clip. It doesn't have to necessarily be their own work, but there's something else they're including besides the reflection for me. We talked about this earlier, a good heading. I want them to write a heading that will help others know what they're talking about, encourage them to want to interact with them. I want them to tag it. So I want them to use tags when they're writing their posts so that it organizes it for them. It helps them classify what they're doing, and it makes it searchable for them to come back to later. And then I also want them to interact with people. And so the idea of either interacting with a small group of students, or I also frequently use this idea of alphabetically, each week you need to give feedback to the next person ahead of you alphabetically. And so I choose like one person ahead of you, give them feedback. The next week, the second person ahead of you alphabetically, third person. And so you've given, over 10 weeks, you've given 10 people feedback on their posts that they've made. So that's an idea, and I'll make sure you get this. The third example is for a blogging or a wiki project. And what I've come up with for that is, and have had multiple people implement this, is a collaborative script. And so this is really walking them through a project where they work together. So I can give you this as an example. And so this first part is there's some kind of a real world project. So in this case, I've got teachers who are helping a new teacher learn what's most important when they first start teaching. This is one that I did with Art Ellis, collaborated with him on. So in a consultation session, I can help you figure out something if you were wanting to head down this road. And so in this case, I think what's some of the key aspects of it, there are these important questions that are being asked, and they relate directly to the text they're working with. And so as they're going through doing their readings and reflecting, then this group project is also part of that whole process. So it explains they're going to be put on teams, and I make sure the teams aren't set up until the second week of the course, because we might have somebody drop, and I don't want to have to reshuffle the teams. That's much less likely that someone will drop after the second week of or after the first week of the course is over. And then we start, the very first thing they do, we break the project down into phases. And so I make it be something that spans the entire term. And the first phase, the first project they do is a team charter. And so later on when you read this document, you'll see what I'm telling them. I'm actually using something from Paloff and Pratt, where they talk about how to build a team charter. So we're just talking about how you're going to identify yourself as a group. When will you meet? Are you meeting in person, or are you meeting only online? How quickly do you expect everybody to respond to messages that are being sent out? How will you handle a group member who's not participating? What is the goal of this project? What are the deliverables? What are the products that are being asked for? These are all pieces that they can work from. And then the remaining phases of the project are just products then. So in this particular one, they had to write 3 essays, 3 5-paragraph essays, and then give a presentation. So in the second phase, they wrote together they wrote a paper using an online collaborative tool to write that paper. And it talks about how they work individually, how they work as a group. In the third phase, they did the same thing on a different question. Fourth phase, they did the same thing on a third question. And then the fifth phase, they brought it all together in a presentation that they built. And it again explains how they work individually, how they work collaboratively. I like to include individual tasks that they have to show evidence of, as well as group tasks, so that they, many times in group projects, you hear students, if you could listen to them, they would be saying, okay, here's the student who says, here are my ideas, and the next student says, those are good, let's use your ideas. And the next week, they come together again, and the first student says, here are my ideas, what are yours? I like your ideas, let's go with your ideas. So we've got to get that, this person who is a social loafer, we've got to get them out of their bad habits and get them to be a participant. So if they don't show individual evidence, each week, then they're going to suffer the consequences for that.